Hello everybody and welcome to my channel. My name is J-Dash and in this video, I'll be bringing you the guide to being proficient in Pokemon competitive PvP. In this guide, I will be explaining the strategies and points on which you need to focus when team building for competitive battles regardless of tier or generation. So whatever Pokemon game you're playing, this guide is for you. Alright, so the first thing that crosses anybody's mind when building a competitive Pokemon team is which strategy am I going to use, is it effective in this time or era of Pokemon battling, and most importantly, will it make me win? So let's talk about the strategies first. All PvP strategies across all generations fall under one of these categories: Hyper Offense, Balanced, Stall, Gimmick, Weather, or Specialized. I'll explain each and every one of them, but before we do keep in mind that there is no one strategy that is supreme. Any strategy has a chance of winning or losing as long as luck is a factor in Pokemon games, which always will be. So going forward from here, you should consider which strategy you want to use based on what you would like to use. Speaking of likes, it would mean the world to me if you could like this video and consider subscribing to support the channel while you're at it. Every single sub counts, so it would be much appreciated. Nonetheless, let's get back on track. So Hyper Offense is a team consisting of purely offensive Pokemon, ones with high speed and attacks or even bulky attackers that deal whopping amounts of damage. A Hyper Offense team's goal is to knock out the opposing team real quick and straightforward. What makes Hyper Offense a very valid and strong strategy is that it ruins almost any kind of strategy your opponent is brewing by simply overpowering them. When you think about it, it's really scary. Weather teams have been very famous among strategies since earlier generations. Various weather conditions like sun, hail, or rain allow certain Pokemon to be used competitively despite various weaknesses or lacking in a few base stats. For example, what makes Tyranitar an overused Pokemon until this day, despite having 7 weaknesses, is that it's first and foremost a Sand Setter. The Sand Weather boosts its already powerful special defense by 50%, while damaging all non-rock, ground, or steel type opposing Pokemon. Another example is generically the Ice type. Defensively speaking, Ice type is the second worst type in Pokemon, but offensively, it's one of the, if not the, best offensive types, having super effectiveness against both the Dragon and Ground types. So imagine a super fast, dual type offensive Pokemon that you are not able to outspeed. This has actually become feasible in Arctozolt and Arctovish, which have the ability Slush Rush, which doubles the Pokemon's speed in Hail. Imagine the possibilities. And now we come to Stall. I really don't like the notion of stalling. It takes out the fun of Pokemon battling, in my opinion. But anyways, it is a valid strategy. Stall is all about, well, stalling, so it focuses solely on defense while slowly chipping away at your opponent's health either via status ailments or fixed damage moves such as Nightshade or Seismic Toss. Such Pokemon include Galarian Corsola and Chansey. Stall is a good strategy that can even withstand Hyper Offense under certain conditions, so be on the lookout. Balanced teams combine 2 or more strategies in one team that can be used to face any circumstances and overcome many hardships that you could find yourself in during battles. For example, you can have 3 offensive Pokemon, 2 walls, and a setter or a lead. Or you can have half a weather team and balance out the rest of your team to cover for weaknesses. I personally am a huge fan of balanced teams, since the options are literally unlimited and there's always room for creativity, which I highly endorse in Pokemon battling. Gimmick teams revolve around a certain trick or stun that either gives them a certain edge over the enemy team or interrupts them somehow. One such very famous gimmick is Trick Room. Trick Room allows slower Pokemon to go first and it lasts for 5 turns, so you can build a specifically slow team and still be able to sweep your opponent. Another example is Shuffle teams that utilize switching moves like Roar and Dragon Tail, which force your opponent Pokemon to switch with another one in the party. This doesn't only serve to disrupt the opponent's flow, but can also be combined with entry hazards to force them to be damaged or status. Last but not least are specialized teams. Those are the ones that base themselves on a certain aspect of battle, whether it be a certain move, ability, type, stat, or even an item. Full Trick Room teams identify as a specialized team, which focuses on low-speed Pokémon. If you decide to use a specialized team, keep one thing in mind when building your team: whether that certain aspect can be countered or not. So if you use a Trick Room team, for example, make sure all your Pokémon are slow. It wouldn't be fun if your opponent brings out an even slower Pokémon and takes advantage of your strategy, right? So now that we have the strategies covered, let's get to the points that you need to pay attention to precisely. The first point you need to focus on is type coverage. Having only 2 to 3 types in your team or a certain redundant type might prove problematic. If you have 3 slow or defensively weak Pokemon with the same weakness, and your opponent has one Pokemon that has a super effective attack against all of them, you'll be annihilated in a second, but even that has a solution, in different ways. If one of those weak Pokemon can learn a move that also hits the opponent's Pokemon super effectively, and can survive at least one hit from that Pokemon, then you're safe. And even if your Pokemon cannot survive one hit, you can make it hold a focus sesh. A third way to avoid such situations is priority moves, but we're going to talk about movesets and items later. So, it is generically beneficial to have attacks of types that are within your weakness range. Manaphy and Chandelure can both learn the move Energy Ball, which is a very powerful grass move that can save you during switch-ins or certain type matchups. The second point is ability utilization. As we all know, switching is the cornerstone of Pokemon battling. Some abilities prove to be very beneficial with switching. Iron Barbs and Rough Skin deal 1/8 of a Pokemon's HP as damage if you make contact with it. Other abilities such as Regenerator and Natural Cure heal 1/3 of your maximum HP and cure you of status ailments once you switch out, respectively. Having Pokemon in your team that have those abilities can save you out of tight spots. There are other abilities that can even remove weaknesses when paired with a specific typing. Levitate on Rotom or Sap Sipper on Azumarill completely negate one of those Pokemon's weaknesses, and some abilities even give extra bonuses. Sap Sipper, for example, raises your attack by 1 stage, and Volt Absorb and Water Absorb recover your HP by 1/4 of the maximum. Some other abilities even allow you to bypass abilities or even typings to hit those Pokemon regardless, such as Mold Breaker, Scrappy, or Turbo Blaze. The next point is held items. Items are a crucial part of Pokemon battles. Deadly if you get it right, disastrous if you get it wrong. Every item fulfills a certain role in Pokemon, either to extend, support, or check. Let's crack it down to simpler terms. Extending is helping your set strategy reach or fulfill its criteria. Kingdra is an excellent range sweeper, but its special attack stat is kind of low, which makes it hard for it to knock out Pokemon in 1 or even sometimes 2 hits. So you fit Kingdra in with either Choice Specs or a Life Orb, both of which increase the damage output of your Pokemon, allowing it to knock out certain Pokemon it wouldn't otherwise be able to. The only setback to extending is overextending, committing to a certain play while leaving yourself vulnerable to other threats. In our case, if you use Choice Specs on Kingdra, you lock yourself to one move and will be forced to switch out if your opponent switches in an unfavorable Pokemon to you, or in case of a Life Orb, you make yourself easily KO'd since you lose 10% HP. Support means that the item helps the Pokemon survive an extra 1 to 2 turns or alleviate some of the weight that keeps it down in order for it to fulfill its role. Such items include Leftovers, Rocky Helmet, and Weather Rocks. Leftovers heals the Pokemon by 1/16 of its maximum HP by the end of each round, which allows defensive Pokemon to survive longer. Weather Rocks elongate the duration of weather-changing moves and abilities from 5 to 8 turns, so your Pokemon can enjoy those benefits for a little while longer. Now, the most interesting example is the Rocky Helmet. Rocky Helmet damages the Pokémon that makes contact with the holding Pokémon by 1/8 of its maximum HP. Sounds familiar? Yup, it's exactly the same as Iron Barbs and Rough Skin. So imagine a Rough Skin Pokémon fitted with a Rocky Helmet. You do an entire quarter of HP damage just from being attacked. The most common example Pokémon of this scenario is Garchomp. You know what's also funny about Garchomp? It learns Dragon Tail and Stealth Rocks, which makes it the perfect Shuffle Pokémon. You were quick to disregard Shuffle as a valid strategy, weren't you? The last role is Check Items. Check items are items that get activated or consumed when certain conditions are met. Such items include Focus Sash, Red Card, and all Battle Berries. The Focus Sash is the most notorious of these items, since it's well known to turn the tide of battle by giving the holding Pokémon a single extra turn to live. Pretty amazing when you think how one turn can change the tide of battle. Red Card does exactly what a Shuffle move does. When you survive a hit, you force the attacking Pokémon to switch out, and therefore wasting one of your opponent's turns while posing a threat. Most berries reduce the damage that you take from a single type super effective move, which can save your Pokémon from fainting just enough for you to retaliate. Some other berries also activate effects when certain conditions are met, the perfect example of a check item. Now we go into movesets. Movesets can radically change how a Pokémon is used. Several Pokémon can change roles entirely just by changing the moves you use on them. This tactic is especially effective because of people's general conception of a Pokémon. You'd be surprised to know how people think about a Pokémon differently than you do. Every person has a certain perception for every Pokémon, and views the best way to use it differently than you perceive it to be. Different movesets will also determine which type coverage you will be equipping your Pokémon with. Remember that priority moves also act as a coverage for weaknesses, other than just typing. Quick Attack is a move easily neglected by a lot of players because it's normal type and doesn't have a particularly high attack, and in doing so they overlook a certain element that they're lacking. The last thing we'll discuss when team building for competitive battles is the metagame. You have to have a basic knowledge of which strategies are currently dominant or used a lot and build your team to either counter it, or you can adopt certain aspects of it and add it to your team. So how do you get used to the metagame? Watch, learn, and simulate. Pokémon Showdown is an excellent way for you to discover strategies that are considered meta, and also get to know different Pokémon that you might have not considered using before, or at least study their movesets as well as implement any movesets you wish to test. So overall, Showdown is a very good way to study for competitive play. Another way for you to learn more about competitive play is to watch the VGC, which stands for the Video Game Championship. By watching the VGC, you can see what the top players use and how they think and react during battles. Also, if you go so far as to participate in actual events, who's not to say that you may even make top cut? You'll never know until you try. To round up this video, here's today's power tip. Make sure you study the type chart. I was surprised to learn that about 35% of competitive players still don't know all the type resistances, such as that grass resists ground or that fighting resists rock. And with that, I thank you guys so much for watching today's guide. If you enjoyed the video or at least learned something new, do consider subscribing to the channel. I will be making more Pokemon videos soon, so make sure you stay tuned. And until then, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye bye!